Most brands hitting around 100k per month on Meta spend run into the same scaling challenges: creative fatigue, narrow angles, and a lack of a system. In this video, I'll show you the 5 pillars we use to scale clients past 250k per month, finding winning hooks and angles, building full funnel creative diversity, compounding ads through iteration, and setting up the right production engine and operations. This is the creative data system we've tested across 100 different brands and we use to make ads that spend over $3 million a month on Meta. Now, I'm breaking this down in the video step by step so you can go ahead and copy it for free right now. So let's get into it. So there are 6 scaling challenges that I see at 100k per month Meta ad spend continuously. I'm going to break them down for you right now. And then I'm going to break down how we can actually solve them and overcome them. So the first one is creative fatigue. So you have 1 or 2 hero ads that take all the spend and performance drops fast when they tire out. So you're relying on a few ads, and when they actually stop performing, the whole ad account dies. We have angle narrowness. So current ads lean too heavily on one pain/solution and don't widen into new avatars or promises. We have top of funnel weakness. Obviously, it's harder to scale into top of funnel. So naturally, a lot of your ads are focused on problem solution aware, but not enough to true unaware curiosity content to expand into audience pools and new customers. We have 4, which is lack of creative diversity. So relying on one format of creative style, which can limit scale and efficiency. And 5th is operational/system drag. So the trackers are not updated, iteration process is unclear, and you have multiple teams working separately on the same ad account. So you just have random tests going on at the same time. So to overcome these 6 challenges, we've broken it down into 4 pillars for scaling to 250k per month in Meta ad spend. The first one is finding winning hooks and angles. Second is full funnel creative diversity. And third is iteration loop to compound ads. And finally, production engine and ops. So it's going to break down exactly how to find your winning angles, scale it into diverse formats, continue building from this, and how to actually run the whole system so you don't burn out. You don't have to do everything yourself as a founder. You can actually start relying on leverage and teams to get this done. So the first one is finding winning hooks and angles. Now, it's very important that this must come from the customer, not from yourself. So obviously you've got your brand's positioning, but also you need to go ahead and you need to look at your customers' pain points, their desired outcomes, their emotions, and translate that into your hooks and angles. You can't be making these up yourself. You can't really be thinking these up and testing them. And there's a few ways that you can actually get these from the customers. And the first one is using their language. Now it sounds simple, but literally go into Reddit, for example, go into your post-purchase surveys, go into your Trustpilot or Google reviews or wherever you have your reviews, and copy and paste in a bunch of reviews and break them down into what ones keep coming up, which ones keep cropping up in every single review that you see, and a lot of the reviews, what pain points are they talking about, and can you actually copy and paste these and use them as a headline in an ad, or use these as a bit of copy in the ad, or just within your ad script itself, or as an ad hook. This will give you an angle. So this is really, really good to be able to actually use their language, because it increases the likelihood of you actually being able to resonate with them. We also have speaking to their emotions. So obviously in our scripts, we want to be talking to their desired outcome. We want to be talking to their pain points, their objections, and that's how it's going to resonate. That's how we're going to sell the click and get people invested. And third, we have align to your positioning. So you don't want to just be going with any old angle. You've got to make sure that your angle aligns with your landing page, and that's how you're going to get people clicking on your ad and then actually checking out. So without destroying conversion rates, because it's very easy to get someone to come onto your landing page just saying any angle, but you need to actually align with your landing page. So finding winning hooks and angles is all about coming from the customer to find this information. So once you've got this information, that's when you take it and you scale it into full funnel creative diversity. Now there's 2 types of creative diversity. I've got the pen out. We've got messaging and we've got format. Now with messaging, they both break down into top of, really, you can do any kind of style. You can do top of funnel, you can do middle of funnel, and you can do bottom of funnel as well. But you can break it down into solution aware, you can break it down into problem aware, unaware, aware, all those different awareness categories. You can break it down into that. For this purpose of this, I'm just going to break it down simpler, just a top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Now your messaging needs to align these 3 stages roughly, because now bottom of funnel is obviously much easier to scale into, because people know about problem that they've got, they're looking around for solutions potentially, and you can obviously target those much easier. And same with bottom funnel. These guys have probably been on your landing page, they've probably been in your actual, they might have even checked out on your cart, they know who you are. You can get them with an offer much easier. Now top of funnel, this is where a lot of people and a lot of brands struggle, because it's actually reaching new customers. Now the language you use for each of these is very important, because for example with the bottom of funnel you can get them with an offer, with middle of funnel you can get them with us versus them, and then with top of funnel, now that's when you actually need to start calling out pain points. You need to start using styles of messaging that's going to appeal to mass audiences, and new customers who do not know much about you. And you might need to do some kind of explainer style, and you can do a longer form ad. Now, all of these different messaging styles are really trying to get new audiences, engage them, and then convert them. That's the whole benefit of having these people, because you start this structure, because we start getting new customers in, nurturing them, and then converting them. So that's the messaging style to really grow your Facebook ad, and that's how you can scale on Facebook ads. Now, don't get me wrong, you can scale with just these two, middle of funnel and bottom of funnel. However, eventually you're going to cap out there and you need to start going to top of funnel, and it's always the hardest to crack. However, you can make it much easier to be able to crack these different messaging buckets by using different formats that work with each of them. And let's move on to formats. So you can take these 3 different messaging buckets and you can actually really enhance their performance by using formats that work well with each funnel stage. So for example, now these aren't exclusive to each funnel stage. However, they do naturally lean into one funnel better than the other, one awareness level better than the other. So for example, a podcast ad just works great for top of funnel and potentially even middle of funnel because it's conversational, it's engaging. Same with, for example, static ads. Now, static ads, you can have an image with an offer. Now, ignore my terrible handwriting, but that can be a bottom of funnel. Now, don't get me wrong, you can have statics top of funnel and middle of funnel. Middle of funnel statics are great. Top of funnel, we've had great top of funnel statics that have really scaled. However, for the most part, static ads just work better with an offer on and us versus them middle of funnel, just because it's simple to look at and quick to get across. Whereas top of funnel, you need to be doing more explaining, and to reach a new audience, you need to explain things to them in a way that they understand. That's why video is obviously going to work better. And then we can do a final style, UGC, which might be middle of funnel, for example. Now you can see these styles are not exclusive. For example, you can mix and match all of these to work in any kind of order. However, there are some that naturally work better, and that's what we've kind of broken down right here. So that's how you get full funnel creative diversity, so you can attract new customers, nurture them, and convert them, as I said. Now, we have iteration loop to compound ads. So it's very important when you start getting data in the ad account, you don't just start again from scratch, because that's what we see a lot of brands do. When they start scaling, they get a few ads working well, and then they just continue the same process they did to get the initial ads, and then don't actually learn from the ads that are in the ad account performing. Now, this is the process that we use to make sure that we're learning from iterations, to make sure that we're learning from ads in the ad account. We have a creative tracker with a naming convention. You can get ours at mediaengineer.com/ad tracker if you want to see our creative tracker. And in there, we have the angle, the concept, the creator, that we even have hook in there sometimes. And this gives us the ability to really start using tools like Motion and exporting the data via, now we have a creative tracker that we use to track all of our ads and create a naming convention. Now you can get our creative tracker at mediaengineer.com/ad tracker if you want to have a look at what we use to scale 7-figure brands. And inside here, we track all of our brand creatives, all of our concepts, our angles, the creator type, the hook sometimes, and we have that in there in our creative tracker so we can begin to spot patterns. This also means that we can have different naming conventions. With a lot of our clients, we've started using naming conventions where we can export ads using and ranking by angles. So for example, we can use tools like Motion and start to rank by angles because we're using our creative tracker and naming convention and plugging this into Motion. Now the creative tracker gives you the ability to have a bird's eye view of things. So even if you don't have the naming convention or the Motion, you can look at the creative tracker and begin to see what angles are working. Then from here, you can begin building hypothesis from each video. So you can say, okay, we've had this brief perform. It's all with this specific angle about weight loss. It was targeting women from age 30 to 40, like X, Y, and Z. It was this format, and you start to see patterns. And that's when the creative tracker really comes to life, because you start to see patterns from the ads that are working in the ad account. And then you can begin building winning messaging, angles, and formats. So this is really the second step from here. So once you've pieced all of this together, you've tracked it in your creative tracker, you can begin to spot winning messaging, angles, and formats. And this is when it really is as simple as making more. So for example, if you have a UGC ad that's working well, you can just go ahead and turn it straight into a podcast ad. Very simple, just like that. And you can do the same with static to UGC and vice versa. And you want to be carrying over the key parts, so the messaging and the angles, and then the formats you can change. And then in some aspects, you can take the angles and you can change it to a bottom of funnel style or a top of funnel style messaging just by tweaking the hook or by tweaking something about the ad, focusing on another aspect, but keeping the remaining messaging or the whole angle the same. You can really just chop and change things, but building from the ads that are working in the ad account. So it's so key that you don't just start from scratch. Now, the fourth and final step is production engine and ops. So this is when you can start to build leverage and really scale without having to do the extra legwork yourself. Now, there's so many founders that I speak to who are doing over 100K a month. We even had a client who was spending 500k per month, and the founder was doing all of the creative himself. Now, it's really important when you get to that level to start building leverage. So you can just kind of focus on the high level things. If you still want to do some creatives on the side, go ahead. But really at that stage, you want to be focusing on higher leverage tasks, like having a team of multiple people making creatives based on your systems. That's the leverage. That's how you kind of scale out of it, because you don't want to be making creatives all your life. You don't want to lose the quality. So hire a few people, start making systems, hire an agency, copy their systems if they're making ads better than you. And that's how you can start to build leverage. First of all, team updating trackers. So have the team updating the creative trackers rather than yourself. Then create a system for iterating winning ads. So for example, you've got your creative tracker. Now you need to create a system for iterating on winning ads. So let's say when you find an ad and an angle that has worked twice in the ad account. So you've got an angle that has worked on the past 2 ads and an angle that is a winning angle. And now we want to look at building systems for iterating on winning ads. So let's say you have a winning ad. Instead of you having to do the thinking every single time, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this. We need to, a custom plan every time you make a new winning ad. What you can actually do is, write down, map out an SOP for your system to follow, that when you get a winning ad, you need to make a variation in a different format or in 2 different formats, a hook variation, take the hook and put it on a previous winning ad. Just create systems that actually mean you can really copy and paste a winning ad system. That means when you get a winning ad, you don't have to do all the thinking every single time to make another ad. You can have your system in place for a team member to be able to make the ads for you. Now that's that's great for leverage. However, you still might not have the quality. That's why an agency or potentially a high level individual might be able to do some natural thinking on their own. But having this system means you can start to produce ad creatives following systems. And if these ads don't perform, let's say you have an editor or a creative strategist who follows these systems to make ads. If they don't actually work, then you need to change the system. And that's how it works. So create a system. If the ads aren't working, change the system and see if you can get something that's dialed in. And it really is a matter of testing. Like there's no one size fits all for this. It depends really on your brand, the type of ad it is. And then you can just create systems to create new winning ads. Now, the other problem I see is multiple teams working together. So pretty much we have creative strategists, we have an agency, and we have a graphic designer, and they're all making ads that are all going in different directions. Now, it's super important if this is you get them all to align on one clear goal. We have a few angles that we focus on, and then we have different messaging buckets, like the top of funnel, the middle of funnel, the bottom of funnel. Now, you can really get as specific as you like with this, but some guidelines will be great as well. It just means that you are really giving the pixel the right data, really, because imagine you're just having editors test wild angles whilst your key team is focused really narrowly on these specific angles for your brand. That means that your pixel is going to be going in 2 different directions and obviously just muddying it up in total. And it just means that your ad account is no longer working together, because some ads are going to be attracting some people, and then they're also going to be getting retargeted with ads in the completely different angle, which isn't, a major thing, but it just really helps if the whole team is working together. So if you have an editor, you have an agency, and you have an internal team, you want them all to be focused on one clear goal, which is, this is our brand's positioning, these are different angles that we can test. Really focus on building from the winning ads and testing less regularly. That's what I would say. Now, you've probably been in the situation when you have multiple teams working together and the results just don't go your way, and that's probably why, because they've all got the blinders on. So it's really important just to guide them and say, these are the kind of guidelines for us, the angles we want to focus on. Feel free to test some things, but less regularly. And for the most part, we want to focus this direction. This is our brand's key messaging. It's going to this landing page. It's got to align with this landing page messaging. And that's how you can start to see all of these guys complement each other and results start to compound throughout the whole ad account, because they're all learning. And ideally, you have them all working together on one creative tracker or one naming convention or one kind of source of truth, so they can all learn rather than being in some kind of fight against each other. Of course, we want it to be competitive, so that gets the most of each other out of each other. However, we want to make sure that we're all learning from the data that you're paying for. Now, finally, if you want my team to map out your creative system, book a free custom creative plan using the first link in the description below. We'll do an audit of your ad account. We'll map out exactly how we can scale you to where you want to get with creative diversity by finding the winning messaging in your ad account. It's the first link in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll speak to you soon.